I know you've all seen the videos, top 10 fastest missiles, or best fighter jets. But besides the fact that they are just clickbait, you can't by any means just compare a single attribute of any group of systems and determine which is best. An aircraft might be good in a dogfight, but lacks the ability to carry any real payload. A missile might be extremely fast, but flies high up in the atmosphere where it can be detected and shot down much sooner. But even more important is the training and experience of the crew that operates it, and that the weapon is maintained properly. You can have the best, most capable submarine ever built, but if its crew is untrained, or if it's sat in dock for 30 years rusting, then it's pointless. But before that, the sponsor, ExpressVPN. While we are all staying home more often trying to stay safe, we are becoming more vulnerable inside as we spend more time online. I know you've heard you should get a VPN, and it's absolutely true. I personally use one while searching for a lot of the stuff that makes up these videos. Some sites might not be reputable, some you might not even supposed to be visiting depending on where you live. A VPN will help protect your online life. It's essential. It's important to protect yourself before it's too late. Your identity, your credit card information, your browsing history, and much more can and often is stolen without you ever knowing until it's too late. So you have to be preemptive. ExpressVPN does this by encrypting your connection and masking your IP address so that you can browse the web anonymously. It's also important you pick a credible VPN to protect yourself, and ExpressVPN is what I've now been using. It's easy to use, has the fastest speeds, and top rated. Rated number 1 by outlets such as CNET, The Verge, Wired, TechRadar, and more. Go to expressvpn.com/covertcabal and you'll get 3 months free. Again, that's expressvpn.com/covertcabal. Protect your online life as much as you do in your real life, and you'll get that 3 months for free. I've made plenty of videos criticizing the US, whether it's their lack of ground-based air defenses or modern supersonic anti-ship missiles, but this is one area where the US generally excels in. While technological advances have made operating things like surface-to-air missile systems much easier, it still requires training, skill, and experience on the part of its operator. We saw this with Iran shooting down a civilian airliner in January. The Tor air defense systems operators were likely told to expect a counterattack by the US at any moment, and that such an attack would involve low-flying, stealthy cruise missiles, which they would only detect at the last second and had to act before it was too late. So, when they saw a radar blip appear on the screen, they didn't wait and fired. They didn't have the training or experience to be able to identify this radar image as a civilian airliner, despite some signs which, looking back, should have been obvious, such as the fact that it was ascending, coming from the large international airport, and would have created a much larger radar return than a smaller cruise missile. But it really takes a lot of skill to operate these air defenses. You need to know how to properly and efficiently use the radars, identify friendlies and enemies, know when to launch, so that it's not too far that you miss, but not too close that you, or whatever you're defending, are hit, and whether you should even fire in the first place, as turning on your radars will instantly notify the enemy that you are there, and you are very likely to become a target yourself. Also, as mentioned, stealthy and low-flying aircraft and missiles can appear differently, or not at all on radar, requiring adjustments to be made. To do that, you need an understanding of how radio waves propagate, and what effects the weather and other factors can have. And you need a clear knowledge of the surrounding terrain, so you don't have any ground clutter, and know when and where an enemy might appear or hide. It can take months, or even years, to become proficient at it. And that's true with pretty much every job in the military. As Douglas MacArthur said, "In no other profession are the penalties for employing untrained personnel so appalling or so irrevocable as in the military." Keeping a well-trained military is very expensive, not only in the terms of expending expensive weapons such as missiles, but you also have to be constantly training new recruits. Every time one leaves and a new enlisted enters the service, you have to train them from scratch. So it costs a lot of money to have a properly trained force, something that many nations can't afford to do. This is where having a professional army can really help. In Russia, every man between the age of 18 and 27 is required to serve 1 year in the military, with a few exceptions. That means you need to train each one every year. In the US, the average enlisted serves in the military for 6.5 years. This means their investment in training pays off more, as they retain each for a longer period of time. This could, however, have the opposite effect in the event of a major war. As in Russia, a larger percentage of the population already has the training and could be called upon. But either way, training is key. One real good example of this is with aircraft carriers. Operating an aircraft carrier is an extremely complex task, where everything has to be working in perfect order. The US has been training, adapting, testing, and improving different methods for operating them more efficiently for nearly 100 years now. It's something that takes time, not only for each individual to learn, but the entire country. How to move around aircraft, getting them in and out of the hangar, getting them in the air and recovering them, moving them around on the flight deck, and refueling and arming them, on top of all the other tasks required to run a ship the size of a small town. Several thousand personnel on board are all there for a reason, and each need to be working in order for the ship just to operate. This is something China is beginning to learn. You can build massive carriers, but learning how to operate them effectively takes years of practice. Another similar, but very important element of warfare is experience. Whether it's the individual having experience, or the nation as a whole, are both important. You can create simulations, hold war games and military exercises, but nothing beats having real combat experience. You need that experience to teach you how your plans hold up under fire, literally. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong in combat. Experience not only lets you know that, but also how to adapt. Going back to the aircraft carrier example, operating these ships in real combat situations gives experience on how to handle things that might not have been planned for in training. All the planning, training, and war games in the world isn't going to be able to resolve every last possible problem you might encounter in real combat. This is where experience comes in. This is another area where China and Russia fall behind the US. After World War II, wars in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and others against all sorts of enemies has given the US extensive knowledge on how to adapt and fight a war. China, by comparison, for all its new equipment and rapid buildup, hasn't fought a war in over 40 years. On top of this, you aren't going to get far with all your training and experience if your ship or aircraft or tank doesn't work. Maintenance is an extremely important factor. It's also extremely expensive. This is something that Russia is struggling with, especially with their navy. They inherited a massive military force from the Soviet Union, and with it, all the expense of keeping it operational. One of the most obvious of these would be their aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov. The ship has had repeated problems with numerous systems breaking down, including propulsion, water shortages due to evaporators breaking, fires, and more. It has spent a good amount of its life in port, undergoing some sort of slow repairs. Most recently, from the floating dry dock it was sitting in sinking, a 70-ton crane crashing onto it, and then, a year later, while those repairs were underway, a massive fire. And today, the carrier is still sitting in port being repaired. It needs a dry dock, and reportedly, the contractor hired to build one is refusing to begin work as they do not believe they'll get paid. And it's not just the carrier they're having problems with repairing and maintaining. The Nakhimov, a Kirov-class battlecruiser, has had major delays. It was originally stated that it would be operational by 2006. That was delayed to 2012, then by 2014, then 2018, and now not until 2021. This maintenance issue manifests itself in other ways as well. Russian submarines often go long periods before repairs. This is especially detrimental, as any nicks or bends, or even small damage to its hull, propeller screws, or rudder will make it louder, enabling an enemy to detect it from much further ranges. China, well, a good percentage of their equipment is still extremely new, so their maintenance track record is difficult to determine. And the US itself has some issues here. Maintenance is costly, especially for the large supercarriers. Every one of the large nuclear-powered aircraft carriers goes through various shorter maintenance periods and a refueling and complex overhaul, which is nearly 4 years long and very expensive. So much so that they often get delayed for budgetary reasons. Another problem which became apparent was during the collision of the USS Fitzgerald with a container ship. On top of the training issues here, it was reported several important systems on board were broken and never repaired, including resorting to using Garmin GPS for navigation. The ship's messaging system was broke and they were using Gmail, and a radar screen which only worked when the sailor constantly punched the button to refresh it. So these maintenance problems have real consequences beyond just in wartime. That, along with training and experience, really plays an important role. And that role is just as important, if not more, than simply having the fastest or most advanced fighter jet.